Panic erupts in the galaxy when humans declare no negotiations. The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, carried across light years by a sleek diplomatic courier ship, painted in the soft blues and silvers of the Galactic Concord. It docked at Earth's orbital station without fanfare. Its pilot, a nervous young Qatari with iridescent scales, handing over a sealed data crystal to a human customs officer who barely glanced at it before slotting it into the official queue. No one on the station knew what the message contained. No one expected it to matter much. After all, Earth had been part of the Concord's loose network for less than 50 years, and humans were still seen as newcomers. Loud, fast, and oddly emotional, but harmless enough. That changed by lunchtime. Deep in the heart of Geneva, inside a reinforced chamber beneath the Unified Earth Council headquarters, President Daniel Hayes sat alone with the decoded transmission. The room was cool and quiet, lit only by the soft glow of wall panels. He read the message twice, then a third time. His fingers tapped once against the arm of his chair, a rare sign of tension. The Concord wasn't asking. It was demanding. For months, human survey ships had been mapping the Helios expanse, a vast stretch of space near the galactic rim long considered neutral territory. Rich in rare minerals and stable for colonization, the region had been avoided by most conquered species due to ancient treaties and mutual distrust. But humans, ever practical and short on patience, saw opportunity. They'd already built 2 mining outposts and were laying the foundations for a third. The Concord viewed this as a breach of galactic etiquette, if not outright aggression. Their message gave Earth 72 hours to halt all activity in the expanse and send representatives to the Concord capital on Varelli's Prime for urgent negotiations. Daniel Hayes didn't call an emergency meeting. He didn't consult his advisors first. He walked out of the chamber, down 3 levels to the public communications hub, and dictated a single sentence into the global broadcast system. Humanity will not negotiate under pressure or threat. The words were released within minutes, clean, sharp, and final. No explanation. No apology. Just a statement, repeated in every major language and beamed into space on every open frequency. Across Earth, people barely noticed. A few news outlets ran short segments, most framing it as another bureaucratic spat. But beyond the solar system, the reaction was immediate and violent. On the trade moon of Xylos 9, merchants froze mid-deal as the broadcast crackled through public speakers. A Velnari arms dealer dropped a crate of plasma coils, shattering them on the floor. In the Lyran embassy on Corva III, the ambassador fainted. For over 3 centuries, the Galactic Concord had operated on one unspoken rule. All disputes were settled through dialogue. Even wars between member species had begun with months of talks, ultimatums, and formal declarations. No one had ever simply said no. Panic spread like a virus through the data streams. Concord command centers lit up with emergency alerts. Fleet commanders scrambled to verify if the message was real or a hack. Conspiracy theories bloomed in seconds. Had humans discovered a superweapon? Were they being controlled by some ancient AI? Had they gone mad? Back on Earth, life continued as usual. Children went to school. Trains ran on time. On Mars Colony Theta, engineer Kyle Dawson wiped grease from his hands and squinted at his monitor. He wasn't watching the news. He was tracking something else, strange energy fluctuations near the outer edge of the Helios expanse. The sensors showed brief, intense bursts of tachyon radiation, the kind usually associated with cloaked warships or experimental drives. He flagged it as Anomaly Level 2 and sent a routine report to Earth Command. He didn't know it yet, but his data would soon be classified at the highest level. Meanwhile, in Geneva, President Hayes finally called his council together. The room filled with men and women from every continent, their faces tight with concern. Some argued for clarification, for softening the message. Others warned of economic sanctions or even military response. Hayes listened quietly, then spoke just 4 words. "We've said what we'll say." He reminded them that humanity had joined the Concord as equals, not subjects. If the galaxy wanted respect, it had to earn it, not demand it at gunpoint. By evening, the human refusal had been analyzed, dissected, and replayed thousands of times across the galaxy. On Varelli's Prime, the Concord High Council convened an emergency session. The Velnari delegate, General Torvak, slammed his armored fist on the table and declared that humans were unstable and dangerous. The Lyran representative, Elder Mela, urged caution, her voice trembling. They do not act like other species, she said. They do not fear shame. They do not value consensus. We do not understand them. That was the heart of it. The galaxy didn't understand humans. They had studied human history, wars, art, music, politics, but they missed the core truth. Humans would rather break than bend when pushed too far. And now, for the first time, the Concorde had pushed. In orbit around Jupiter, the human deep space monitor station Echo 7 picked up increased comms traffic from Velnari sectors. Encrypted, but the patterns were clear. Mobilization orders. On Titan, linguist Noah Patel, working late in a dimly lit lab, intercepted a fragment of a Concorde emergency broadcast. It mentioned containment protocols and Helios quarantine. He didn't wait for approval. He routed the data straight to Earth Command with a single note. They're coming. No one panicked on Earth, not yet. But the quiet hum of preparation began. Power grids were reinforced. Food reserves quietly doubled. Military ships powered up their drives for the first time in years. And in homes across the planet, people went to bed unaware that their world had just drawn a line in the stars and dared the galaxy to cross it. The silence from Earth after the initial statement only made things worse. To the conquered, silence meant calculation. It meant preparation. It meant humans were not bluffing. By the end of the day, stock markets on 6 major worlds had crashed. Refugees began fleeing border colonies. And in the dark between stars, engines warmed, weapons charged, and the first moves of a conflict no one wanted, but everyone feared, had already begun. Panic erupts in the galaxy when humans declare no negotiations, part. The silence from Earth stretched into a second day, and the galaxy grew more uneasy with every passing hour. The Galactic Concorde's central chamber on Varelli's Prime buzzed with tension. Delegates from over 200 species filled the Grand Hall, their voices rising in overlapping arguments. Some wore robes, others armor. A few hovered in anti-grav pods, but all shared the same look. Confusion mixed with fear. Humans had not just refused to talk. They had vanished from the conversation entirely. No follow-up messages. No diplomatic channels open. Not even a routine weather report from Mars had been broadcast beyond the solar system. It was as if Earth had pulled a curtain around itself and stepped into the dark. The Velnari delegation, led by General Torvak, demanded immediate action. They are arming, he growled, his voice like grinding stone. Their silence is preparation. We must strike before they fortify. The Helios expanse beyond recovery. His words found support among the Karathi and the Zenthar, clans, species with strong militaries, and little patience for what they saw as human arrogance, but others pushed back. The Lyrans, known for their peaceful ways and deep empathy, warned that attacking without clear cause would shatter the Concorde's moral foundation. Elder Mela stood before the assembly, her silver robe shimmering, and spoke softly but firmly. We do not know their intent. To assume the worst is to become the aggressor ourselves. Yet fear was louder than reason. Trade routes near human space slowed to a crawl. Merchant ships rerouted through longer, safer paths. Insurance premiums for vessels flying near the Helios border tripled overnight. On neutral worlds like Sierra 7 and Orlan's Rest, rumors flew faster than starlight. Some claimed humans had activated a hidden weapon left behind by a long-dead alien race. Others whispered that Earth's leaders had been replaced by rogue AIs. None of it was true, but truth mattered less than belief now. Back on Earth, the calm held. There were no public alerts, no emergency broadcasts. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. Military bases operated on double shifts. Factories that once built civilian transports now assembled drone fighters and shield generators. In orbit, the unified Earth Defense Fleet quietly repositioned its ships, forming a loose but effective net around the inner colonies. Navy Commander Lisa Monroe stood on the bridge of the destroyer Aurora, watching tactical displays flicker with data from deep space sensors. She was in her early 40s with sharp eyes and a voice that never rose above a steady tone. Her crew respected her not for her rank, but for her silence in crisis. Right now, she studied a report from Titan Station, linguist Noah Patel's intercept about containment protocols. She forwarded it to Earth Command with a single line. Velnari are mobilizing. Recommend full alert. On Mars Colony Theta, Kyle Dawson worked through the night. The energy spikes near the Helios expanse hadn't stopped. If anything, they'd grown stronger. He ran simulations, cross-referenced old sensor logs, and finally concluded the bursts matched the signature of Velnari cloaking drives, specifically their new Dusk-class frigates. He sent his findings up the chain, but this time the reply came within minutes. Classify. Do not share. Await orders. That told him everything. War wasn't coming. It was already on its way. Meanwhile, on Luna, pilot Chris Ramirez suited up for a routine training flight. Or so it seemed. In truth, his squadron was testing the new Wasp-class interceptors. Small, fast, and nearly invisible to standard scanners. The cockpit felt tight around him but familiar. He'd flown since he was 16, first in Earth's atmosphere, then in the void. Now he practiced evasion patterns against AI-controlled drones that mimicked Velnari tactics. His instructor's voice crackled in his ear. They rely on heavy firepower and tight formations. Break their rhythm and they fall apart. Chris nodded, banking hard to avoid a simulated plasma burst. He didn't know if he'd face real Velnari ship soon, but he was ready to find out. Deep in the asteroid belt, robotics engineer Maya Flores stood before a row of sleek black drones. Each stood 8 feet tall, shaped like a mix between a spider and a hawk with multi-jointed limbs and glowing red sensors. These were the Sentinel units, autonomous defense drones designed to guard human outposts without human pilots. Maya had spent 3 years perfecting their AI. Now she entered the final command sequence. Directive Alpha, she said softly. The drones powered on, their systems syncing to a secure network. Their only order: protect human space. No exceptions. No negotiations. On Earth, President Daniel Hayes gave no speeches. He met with his council twice a day, reviewed intelligence, and signed orders with a steady hand. He knew the galaxy saw humanity as reckless, but he also knew something they didn't. Humans had spent centuries fighting each other. They understood war better than any species that had lived in peace for generations, and when pushed, they didn't just fight, they adapted, they endured. They won. By the end of the second day, the Velnari fleet had gathered near the edge of conquered space, just 3 light days from the Helios expanse. Recon drones sent by Earth confirmed it. 12 warships, including 2 heavy cruisers. Their comms were tight, their movements precise. They weren't bluffing. They were coming to take what they believed was theirs. The Lyrans made one last attempt at peace. Elder Mayella sent a private message to Earth, not through official channels, but through an old academic contact at the University of Nairobi. It was a simple plea: talk to us, before it's too late. The message reached President Hayes that evening. He read it once, then placed it in a drawer. He didn't reply, not because he didn't care, but because he knew words wouldn't stop what was coming. Instead, Earth prepared. Not with rage, not with panic, but with quiet resolve. Factories hummed. Pilots trained. Engineers checked systems. Soldiers stood ready. And across the solar system, people lived their lives, shopping, laughing, sleeping, unaware that their species had just crossed a threshold. The galaxy thought humans were unpredictable. But the truth was simpler: humans had made their choice. They would not be told what to do. They would not be threatened into silence. And if war came, they would meet it not with fear, but with fire. Out in the void, the stars watched, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy held its breath. Panic erupts in the galaxy when humans declare no negotiations. Part 3, the third day, dawned on Earth with clear skies and quiet streets. Children walked to school. Farmers checked their fields. In Tokyo, a street vendor sold warm buns to early risers. Nothing seemed out of place. But in the hidden places, the deep bunkers beneath mountains, the shielded command centers on the moon, the silent corridors of orbital stations, a different kind of day had begun. Earth was no longer waiting. It was acting. President Daniel Hayes had signed the final order just after midnight. Operation Iron Veil was now active. Across the solar system, every non-essential broadcast stopped. Civilian comms were rerouted through encrypted military relays. Public news feeds showed only weather, sports, and old entertainment programs. To the outside galaxy, it looked like Earth had gone dark. In truth, humanity had simply pulled its voice inward, speaking only to itself. The message was clear without being spoken. We are done explaining. On Varelli's Prime, the silence from Earth deepened the panic. The conquered High Council met again. this time in closed session. General Torvak stood and declared that humanity's blackout was proof of hostile intent. They are hiding their movements, he said. They plan to strike first. Elder Mela of the Lyrans tried once more to reason with the assembly. Or they are protecting their people, she offered gently. Would you not do the same if your home were threatened? But her words were drowned out by rising voices. Fear had taken root and it grew fast. Meanwhile, the Velnari fleet moved. 12 warships crossed the agreed boundary of neutral space and entered the Helios expanse. Their target was Outpost Theta 7, a small human mining station on the icy moon of Carissa 4. It held fewer than 200 people, mostly engineers and support staff. The Velnari didn't plan to destroy it. They planned to seize it, take it as proof that humans could be pushed back. They believed the station would surrender without a fight. After all, it had no weapons, no shields, no warships nearby. Or so they thought. What they didn't know was that Theta 7 had been evacuated 2 days earlier. The mining equipment had been shut down. The life support systems were on minimal power. And buried beneath the ice, hidden in reinforced tunnels, were 24 Sentinel drones, Maya Flores' creations, powered down but ready. Their sensors had already locked onto the approaching Velnari ships. Back on Earth, no one celebrated. No one even spoke about it. But in the Unified Earth Defense Command, officers watched the tactical display with grim focus. Commander Lisa Monroe stood beside a young analyst named Ben Carter, both staring at the blinking red icons moving toward the blue dot that marked Theta 7. They think it's empty, Ben said quietly. They're wrong, Lisa replied. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. On Luna, Chris Ramirez was called out of sleep. He suited up in under 3 minutes and ran to his hangar. His Wasp-class interceptor waited, engines already humming. Scramble order, his flight lead told him over the comms. Vector to Helios. You're part of the response. Chris didn't ask questions. He climbed in, strapped in, and launched into the black. Behind him, 11 other interceptors followed. They flew in perfect silence, comms off, running on pre-programmed routes. They would not arrive in time to stop the Velnari from reaching Theta 7, but they would be there for what came next. Deep in the asteroid belt, Maya Flores monitored her drones remotely. She sat alone in a dim room, her fingers resting lightly on a control panel. A soft chime sounded. One of the sentinels had detected enemy presence. She gave no command. The drones were autonomous. They would act when the threat crossed a certain threshold. She trusted them. She had built them to think like humans, to protect, to endure, to strike only when necessary. On Titan Station, Noah Patel worked through another sleepless night. He'd intercepted new Concord chatter, urgent, panicked. The Velnari had entered human-claimed space. The Lyrans were calling for an emergency ceasefire. The Karathi were mobilizing their own fleet. The galaxy was teetering on the edge. Noah compiled everything into a single file and sent it directly to Earth Command. This time he added a personal note. They don't understand us. They never did. President Hayes read the note. He didn't respond, but he kept the message open on his screen for a long time. Then he walked to the window of his office and looked out at the city below. Geneva was quiet, peaceful. He thought of his daughter away at university, unaware that her world might soon be at war. He thought of the miners on Theta 7, safely evacuated to Mars. He thought of the soldiers, pilots, and engineers standing ready across the solar system. Humanity wasn't seeking glory. It was defending its right to exist on its own terms. Out in the Helios expanse, the Velnari ships slowed as they approached Theta 7. Scans showed no life signs. No power surges, no weapons. General Torvak himself watched from the bridge of the lead cruiser. Secure the station, he ordered. Plant our flag. Let the galaxy see that humans can be challenged. The first Velnari boarding craft detached and moved toward the moon's surface. As it neared the landing pad, the ice beneath it cracked. Not from heat or pressure, but from movement. 24 black shapes rose from hidden shafts, their red eyes glowing in the dim light. The Velnari pilot barely had time to scream before the first drone latched onto his hull and tore through the metal like paper. Alarms blared across the Velnari fleet. Confused reports flooded the command channels. Unknown hostiles. They're fast. Shields failing. General Torvak stared at the feed from the boarding craft's last camera. He saw sleek, insect-like machines swarming over his ship, cutting through armor, disabling systems. "What are those?" he demanded. No one could answer. On Earth, the first real strike of the conflict had already happened, and no human had fired a single shot. The galaxy had expected a fight. Instead, it found a trap, and as the Velnari ship scrambled to respond, they realized too late that humanity's silence hadn't been weakness. It had been preparation. In Geneva, President Hayes returned to his desk. He opened a secure channel and spoke one sentence into the recorder. "Let them learn what happens when you walk into a den thinking it's empty." The message was not broadcast. It was saved. For history. For the day the galaxy finally understood. And far away in the cold dark of the Helios expanse, the stars watched as humans proved, once and for all, that they would not be pushed around. Not today. Not ever. Panic erupts in the galaxy when humans declare no negotiations. Part 4. The battle was over before most of the galaxy even knew it had begun. 20 minutes. That was all it took. 20 minutes of chaos, confusion, and cold precision in the icy void near Carisfor. The Velnari fleet, proud and powerful, had entered the Helios expanse with confidence. They left it broken, bleeding, and stunned. Of their 12 warships, only 2 limped away, their hulls scarred, their crews in shock. The rest were disabled, drifting or already breaking apart in the silent dark. No human warship had fired a single energy blast. No human pilot had pulled a trigger. The victory belonged to machines, silent, fast, and utterly ruthless. The Sentinel drones had done their job and done it well. News of the defeat spread faster than light. Within hours, every major world in the Concord knew. Markets froze. Embassies locked their doors. On Varelli's Prime, the High Council chamber erupted into shouting. General Torvak, his face dark with shame and rage, demanded immediate full-scale war. "We cannot let this stand," he roared. "They have humiliated us. They must be crushed." But this time even his allies hesitated. The Korathi envoy asked a simple question. "How do you crush an enemy you cannot see, cannot reach, and do not understand?" No one had an answer. On Earth there was no celebration. No victory speeches. President Daniel Hayes received the full report in his office just after dawn. He read it slowly, then placed it in a locked drawer. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply nodded as if he had expected nothing less. Outside, the city of Geneva woke to another ordinary day. People drank coffee, read the news, kissed their children goodbye. None of them knew that humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic power. But not everyone on Earth was calm. On Luna, Chris Ramirez and his squadron returned from their aborted mission. They had been minutes away from the fight when command ordered them to hold position. They watched the entire engagement from a safe distance, their sensors feeding them every detail. Chris sat in his cockpit long after landing, his hands still gripping the controls. He had trained for years to fight. But today, the fight had ended before he could join it. He felt useless. Angry. Then he remembered something his instructor once told him. The best weapon isn't the one that fires first. It's the one the enemy never sees coming. He finally understood. Back on Mars Colony Theta, Kyle Dawson received new sensor data. The Velnari survivors were heading home, but their path was erratic. They kept changing course, scanning for threats behind every asteroid. Fear had replaced arrogance. Kyle forwarded the data to Earth Command with a note. "They're scared. They think we're everywhere." He was right. The galaxy now believed human defenses were far more advanced than they actually were. Perception had become reality. In the Unified Earth Defense Command, Commander Lisa Monroe reviewed the after-action report. The Sentinels had performed beyond expectations. Not a single drone was lost. All targets had been neutralized with minimal collateral damage. She turned to her team. "This changes everything," she said. "They thought we were bluffing. Now they know we're ready." She ordered all frontier outposts to go dark. No signals, no lights, no movement. Let the galaxy wonder what else was waiting in the shadows. On Titan Station, Noah Patel intercepted a new message, not from the Conquered, but from a small neutral world called Sierra 7. It was a private plea from a group of traders who feared being caught in the crossfire. They asked for safe passage through human space. Earth Command approved it within minutes. The reply was short. "Passage granted. Do not deviate from route." It was a small act of mercy, but it sent a larger message. Humanity was not the monster the Velnari claimed it to be. They fought only when pushed. They protected their own but did not seek to conquer others. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, Maya Flores powered down the remaining Sentinels. Their mission was complete. She ran a diagnostic on each unit, checking for damage, updating their memory logs. One drone had taken a glancing hit from a Velnari plasma burst, but its armor held. She patted its smooth black shell like it was a pet. "Good job," she whispered. She knew the galaxy would call her machines terrifying, but to her they were just tools, built not for war but for survival. The fallout continued to ripple outward. 3 minor conquered species quietly withdrew from the Alliance, citing security concerns. Others began sending secret feelers to Earth, asking about trade, communication, even alliance. The Lyrans, led by Elder Mela, called for an emergency summit, not to demand but to listen. They wanted to understand why humans had acted as they did. President Hayes agreed, but only under one condition: no Velnari present. The Lyrans accepted without hesitation. General Torvak, humiliated and furious, refused to accept the new reality. He convinced his high command to prepare a second, larger strike force, 30 warships, including their newest dreadnought. They would not be fooled again. They would burn the Helios expanse clean if they had to. But before they could launch, something unexpected happened. Human reconnaissance drones, tiny, nearly invisible, slipped past their outer defenses and disabled the command network of the entire fleet. Not by destroying it, but by flooding it with false data, scrambled codes, and looped signals. For 12 critical hours, the Velnari fleet was blind, deaf, and paralyzed. By the time they restored control, the moment had passed. Earth had already moved on. President Hayes finally broke his silence. He stood before a global broadcast, his face calm, his voice steady. "We did not seek this fight," he said, "but we will finish it. We ask only for one thing: respect. Not fear, not obedience, just respect." The message was sent across all open channels. Even the Velnari listened. Even they understood. In homes across Earth, people paused. They saw their leader not as a warrior, but as a guardian. And for the first time, many began to grasp the weight of what was happening. This wasn't just about mining rights or territory. It was about dignity, about the right to say no. Out in space, the stars remained silent. But the galaxy had changed. The conquered was no longer united. Fear had cracked its foundation, and humanity, once seen as a curious newcomer, now stood as something else entirely. A force that would not be bent, not be broken, and certainly not be ignored. The war hadn't ended. But the balance had shifted. And everyone, human or alien, knew it. Panic erupts in the galaxy when humans declare no negotiations, Part 5. The dust had not yet settled in the Helios expanse, but the galaxy was already changing. The Velnari fleet remained grounded, its command network still recovering from the silent sabotage that had left it helpless. No one knew how the humans had done it. No one even knew when it had happened. That uncertainty was more powerful than any weapon. Fear of the unknown had done what no battle could, broken the Velnari's will to act. They still talked of war in private meetings, but their voices were quieter now, laced with doubt. On Virelli's prime, the Galactic Concord was no longer what it once was. Half the member species had stopped attending council sessions. Others sent only junior delegates, as if to show they were no longer fully committed. Trade between worlds slowed. Old alliances frayed. The unity that had held the galaxy together for centuries was unraveling, not from outside attack, but from within. From the simple, terrifying realization that the rules had changed. And humans had written the new ones. Earth, meanwhile, remained calm. No parades. No victory proclamations. Life went on as it always had, but with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. Children played in parks. Trains ran on time. Farmers harvested their crops. Yet beneath the surface, the world stood ready. Defense grids stayed active. Sensors watched the stars. Pilots like Chris Ramirez trained harder than ever, not because they expected another attack, but because they knew peace had to be guarded just as fiercely as war was fought. The Lyrans moved quickly. Elder Maela, sensing the shift in power, arranged a neutral summit on the moon of Syra 7, a small, peaceful world known for its neutrality and clean air. She invited Earth not as a defendant, but as an equal. President Daniel Hayes accepted. He did not go himself. Instead, he sent Elena Ruiz, a career diplomat known for her sharp mind and steady hand. She arrived alone, wearing a simple gray suit, carrying no weapons, asking for nothing but a seat at the table. The summit was held in a glass-domed hall overlooking Syrah VII's silver seas. Delegates from 23 species attended, most of them those who had begun to question the Concord's old ways. The Velnari were not invited. The Karathi sent an observer but refused to speak. Elena Ruiz stood before them all, not on a stage but on the same floor as everyone else. She did not raise her voice. She did not make threats. She simply said what needed to be said. "Humanity does not want war," she began. "We never did. But we will not be told where we can go, what we can build, or when we must speak. We joined the galaxy as partners, not subjects. If you want peace, it must be built on respect, not demands." Silence followed. Then Elder Mela stood and bowed her head slightly, a Lyran gesture of deep respect. "We hear you," she said. One by one, others nodded. Not all agreed, but none argued. The message had been received. Back on Earth, President Hayes watched the broadcast from his office. When it ended, he turned off the screen and walked outside. The sun was setting over Lake Geneva, painting the water in soft oranges and pinks. He thought of all the years humanity had spent looking up at the stars, dreaming of joining a greater community. Now they were part of it, not by asking for a place, but by claiming it. In the weeks that followed, the new order took shape. The Conquered did not dissolve, but it shrank. A new council formed, smaller, more practical, with Earth as a founding member. Trade resumed, but now on fairer terms. Human ships were given safe passage through neutral zones. In return, Earth agreed to share limited sensor data to help prevent future misunderstandings. It was not friendship, not yet. But it was a start. On Mars Colony Theta, Kyle Dawson returned to his normal work. The energy spikes near the Helios border had stopped. The Velnari were gone. He stood on the observation deck one evening, looking out at the red plains, and felt something he hadn't in months. Peace. Not the absence of danger, but the presence of safety. He knew it wouldn't last forever. But for now, it was enough. Commander Lisa Monroe was promoted, though she didn't want it. She preferred the bridge of a ship to a desk in Geneva. But she accepted, knowing her experience would help shape Earth's future in space. She made one request, that all new defense protocols include clear rules of engagement. "We fight to protect," she told her superiors, "not to punish." They agreed. Maya Flores continued her work on the Sentinel drones, not to make them deadlier but smarter. She added new protocols to avoid civilian targets, to distinguish between threats and mistakes. Her machines had saved human lives. Now she wanted to make sure they never took innocent ones. Noah Patel left Titan Station and returned to Earth. He accepted a teaching position at the University of Nairobi, where he began a new course, Understanding the Galaxy and Being Understood. His first lecture drew a full house. Students leaned forward as he spoke not of weapons or war, but of language, culture, and the danger of assumptions. "They thought we were reckless," he said. "We thought they were arrogant. Neither was true. We just didn't listen." And in homes across the solar system, people slowly began to understand what had happened.
Humanity had not won a war.
It had earned a place, not through force alone, but through the simple, stubborn act of saying no when it mattered most. The galaxy would never be the same. Some species still feared humans. Others respected them. A few even admired them, but all now knew one truth. When humans drew a line, they meant it. Stars continued to burn. Ships still sailed the void. And somewhere in the quiet dark between worlds, the universe held its breath, not in fear, but in watchful respect. For the first time, humanity was not just part of the galaxy. It was a force within it, and that was enough.